I want to welcome you to this morning's conference, Make Markets Be Markets, to mark the release of a volume of papers that is produced by the Roosevelt Institute's Project on Global Finance. I'm Andy Rich, I'm the president of the Roosevelt Institute, and on behalf of the board of the Institute, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to welcome you. It's wonderful to have you with us today for what I think will be a very important conversation. I became president of the Roosevelt Institute a little more than a year ago. And at that time, a year ago, despite the severe problems that the country faced, it seemed a moment filled with great promise in American politics. We had exciting new political leadership in Washington and the chance to take the country in new directions. And it was without question a great moment to become leader of an organization named Roosevelt. Especially in those first months of last year, Franklin Roosevelt was a frequent reference point in the news of the day, and his enormous legacy informed the prospects for real, bold change in this country. Over the past year, the Roosevelt Institute has embarked on a range of projects focused on carrying forward the values and the courageous spirit of the Roosevelts. And our focus has been on developing ideas around some of the most important and challenging policy debates of our times. And that's what brings us together this morning. So let me just say a few quick words about the Roosevelt Institute as we get started. We are the nonprofit partner to the FDR Presidential Library and Museum, an hour and a half north of here in Hyde Park, New York, the first presidential library built in the nation. We are the leader in the development of Four Freedoms Park on Roosevelt Island here in New York City, following a design that famed architect Louis Kahn put together more than 35 years ago. We're going to break ground on the park in the coming weeks in one of the most exciting private-public partnerships in decades. We are on college campuses, on 86 campuses. The Roosevelt Institute Campus Network has more than 8,000 members who are doing real policy work. Important work, and they're making a difference nationally and in their communities where they go to school. They're the brightest students on their campuses, and they're the next generation of leaders for this country. And then from offices here in New York City, as well as in Washington, we're putting enormous energy into developing rigorous, bold ideas that carry forward to the debates of this day the spirit that the Roosevelts brought to the last century. Our focus is on recruiting and supporting a stable of thinkers and practitioners who can develop and articulate broad frameworks and bold vision for change, and to integrating these people and their ideas into the public and the policy dialogue. This isn't just about producing new research and new policy analysis, but rather it's about advancing new ideas and the people who are their strongest proponents. We began the work of the Institute's Policy Center some months ago with a focus on financial reform. We started there because the country was experiencing the most severe financial collapse and the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression, when President Roosevelt took office. It was a natural issue of concern and a place to start for a place called the Roosevelt Institute. And it was an area where there was an enormous need for an infusion of ideas, expertise, and people, new leaders who could set the nation's financial sector and its broader economy back on track. As we come together this morning, these many months later, this need is as great as ever. We're at a crucial crossroads in the policy debate, and I'm grateful that we have been able to assemble some of the smartest, most well-respected voices from Wall Street, the Academy, and Washington to lay out the threshold conditions for real financial reform. Today's conversation will be about the basic ingredients necessary to make sure that we don't head into another crisis, but rather restore the integrity of the US financial system. This morning we release the volume Make Markets Be Markets. It's a volume with chapters by 10 of the most distinguished authors imaginable on some of the most important dimensions of the financial reform debate. In the next hour, we will hear from each of the authors. We will move from one to the next without introductions. You each have a copy of the volume, as well as the rest of the conference materials, which provide bio information on each of the authors. It's an outstanding group of individuals, and I encourage you to read their bios as we proceed through their presentations. On behalf of everyone at the Roosevelt Institute, I want to thank the authors, I want to thank the discussants, I want to thank the supporters of our work, everyone present for being a part of this conversation. As the morning proceeds, there won't be a lot more thank yous, and there won't be introductions, because we want to keep the conversation focused on substance. Time is short, and there's a need for a real discussion of ideas. So let's get started. And to begin the conversation, I am pleased to turn the stage over to Roosevelt's chief economist, senior fellow, Nobel Prize winning economist, Joe Stiglitz.